In this video, we'll be looking at using gridlines, currency and percentage, and we'll also be looking at how to use the cell merging feature. So I'm going to go to the costs page of my spreadsheet, and you can see that on the cost page of my spreadsheet, I've got a number of what appear to be tables inserted onto this page. Now, the first table is for the products that I will be selling, or a selection of sample products that I'll be selling in my online business. Now, I've called that products, and in order to allow me to make my title span across 3 different columns, I've highlighted those 3 columns, and then in the Home tab, I've used a function called Merge and Center. So when I press the Merge and Center button there, it then joins the 3 columns or the 3 cells that I've selected together to make them appear as one big cell to allow me more space to add the title of my table. So I'm just going to replicate the table that I've got here and call that product. Now, as you can see, those 3 letters there are highlighted slightly at the top, which then tells us that we've actually merged those 3 cells. So I'm then just going to make my title stand out slightly by increasing the size and also making that title bold. I'm then going to insert 3 subheadings for the items in my table. In this case, I'm going to use product no to represent the product number, and then product to represent the product itself, and then cost, where I'll store details of how much I will sell each item for. Now, as you can see, I've got a slight issue here where we can't see all of the heading product number because it's overlapped by the product title in the next column. So in order to rectify that, I'm just going to hover over the line between the I column and the J column until my cursor changes from the white cross or the black down arrow to a black double-sided arrow, and I'm just going to drag that column over slightly so that all of my subheading is visible. I'm then going to highlight those 3 headings and align them to the center, just because I think visually it looks nicer. Because the colour scheme of my business is black and white, I'm just going to fill those subheadings with a black background, and then I obviously need to change the colour of my font from black to a different colour so that they're visible against the black background. I'm then going to resize those slightly again and make those bold so that they stand out. I then need to number my products. So I'm going to list 10 sample products on my costs page. I can either type the numbers from 1 to 10, or I can use a feature called the fill handle on my spreadsheet to hover over the very small square in the bottom right hand corner of the active cell until my white cross changes to a black cross, and then click on my mouse and drag down. Initially, the spreadsheet will think I want to just copy that number all the way down. So on the autofill options here, I'm going to click the drop down arrow and change that to fill series. It will then increase my number by 1 every time it moves down through the rows. Again, I'd like to align those to the center. So I'm just using the little center alignment button here. And I'm going to increase the size of my product column so that I've actually got space to write and list my products there. And then what I'd like to do is I'd like to make this information appear to be in a table. Now, the way that I we'll be doing that is by using grid lines. So I need to highlight the area that I wish to appear as if it's a table. And then in the Home tab, in the font section, next to the underline function is a square divided into 4 smaller squares. And when I hover over that, you can see that the default setting for this borders button is to bottom border. So if I click the small drop down arrow next to the bottom border button, I can then change that option to all borders, and it adds grid lines to my area to make my area look like my items are arranged in a table. I can then list my sample products for my business. As mine is a ladies' clothing company, I can type some appropriate products. I'm just going to copy and paste ladies' skinny jeans over from that table to that table. And finally, for this table, I need to deal with the cost column. Now, when I'm entering the cost into my table, what I don't want to do is manually enter the pound sign. If I manually enter the pound sign, when I'm trying to use these values in formulas and calculations later on, the spreadsheet becomes confused when it sees anything other than a number. So instead, we're entering any prices as a decimal. So in this case, I'm entering the cost price of my jeans as $24.99. So I just type in 24.99, and then I can press enter on my spreadsheet, and I can see if I click on that and look in the formula bar at the top, we can see the spreadsheet sees that as a number. Now, what we need to do is we need to format this number so that to the user and to the eye, this looks like a value of money. Now, as I'm going to put costs in this whole column, I'm going to format the whole column at once. So I'll highlight the column, and then in the number section at the top, where we have general as our number format here, I'll click the drop down arrow, and then I'm going to select currency. As you can see, it's added the pound sign in front of 24.99 to make it look like that's an item of money. However, if we click in that cell and go back to the formula bar, we can see that it hasn't actually physically added the pound sign to our value. So the spreadsheet still sees this as a normal standard number and is then able later on to use this number in any future calculations. Okay, so you can then populate your table with 10 sample items or however many sample items you see is appropriate. Because of my business, I've also got a table of optional extras. Now, in my case, I have 3 optional extras, which are click and collect, where the customer collects their item from the store, home delivery, and gift wrap if they'd like their item to arrive wrapped as a present. Now, to create that table, I've used exactly the same process as I used in the table above. I've highlighted 3 cells in columns next to each other. I've used the merge and center button to make those merge into one big cell. I've then added subheadings, and I've highlighted the area that I'd like to appear is in a table. Just merge those there at the top, and then I've used the grid lines feature, which has now kept my last choice, which is all borders, and followed the process above. Now, to make my final table, which in my case is promotional offers, I've used a slightly different process. For the first few steps, I have followed the steps the same as the first table. I'm just going to copy and paste that example table there. I've then used promotional offers as my heading. I've used promo number, promotion and discount as my subheadings. Again, you can change those headings as appropriate to your business and your tables. I've then used item numbers 1, 2, 3. And then I have come up with 3 discounts that I can offer my customers. So we've got spend over £100, a student discount, and a loyalty card holder. And I'll copy those over. And where this table differs slightly is that a discount won't necessarily be an amount of money because the discount will depend on how much the customer actually spends. So instead, the discount is actually going to be a percentage of whatever the customer spends. So for my spend over £100 promotion, I'd like to offer my customers 20% discount. For student NUS card holders or student discount card holders, I am going to give them 10% discount, and for anyone that holds a loyalty card, I'm going to offer them 15% discount. So instead of highlighting these cells in this column and in the number section formatting those as currency, instead I'm going to format those as percentage. So I'm going to highlight those, select number, select percentage from the drop down, and then when I enter the percentage of discount as a standard number, 20, 10, and 15, you can see that the spreadsheet automatically adds the percentage sign, but as